Welcome to another trading analysis video. We will be looking at the week ahead, which is Monday the 19th of August. So I apologise in advance for my voice. I've caught a cold. That's what happens when you spend a month in the Philippines and then come back to the UK. So bear with me. So what we're going to do is break down 8 trades here. So this is stuff that we see and we anticipate a move happening next week. So this has been recorded on Sunday. So the markets we're going to be looking at is the week commencing Monday the 19th of August. So we'll start off with Brent crude oil and gold. You see that we always have Brent crude oil and gold at the top here because so many Forex pairs are paired up with these. These make them move. There's a correlation there. So we always want to see, before we go into the Forex, we always want to see what is oil price doing, which the Canadian dollar is moves most of the time in a similar direction. And then obviously gold as well has got a lot of Forex pairs are correlated to gold. So we can see here oil for some really nice trades on oil this year, but I would always enter at that 81 range. As you can see here, previously we've entered at this support area, but it looks as if this area is maybe becoming a new support area down at 77. So we always entered on 81 once our criteria was met and we had the signal, but now I'm a bit apprehensive. Because this is creating a support level here at 77. So it's good to know where the price of oil is, but I don't see any trade setups. Never say never. Oil and gold are both affected as well with, geopolitics. So you just don't know what's going to happen. So here we have gold. Now this is interesting. We've had some really good trades on gold as well. It's reached an all-time high and we anticipate a reversal. We've got videos on our strategy. We will go through it in this video as well, but there is more detailed. It's a very simple strategy, but there is more detailed video on it, where we enter, where we exit. So as we can see, we're at an all-time high and I see this retracing the week ahead. So we will be looking for short positions on gold only after we see a big wick appear or an engulfing candle. So you can see we're on the 4-hour time frame and it's just bullish just now. So there's no signal, no sign. So I'll show you here what we're looking for. Obviously, we're looking for these, I call them big wicks at the top or big tails at the bottom. So the big wick will appear at a resistance area, or the big tail will appear at a support area. Now, as you can see here, we entered this trade not on a big wick. I'll just put an arrow here. So we entered this trade here not on a big wick, but on this big engulfing candle. So if we look at some other examples here, and over here we had this big wick appear on this resistance, so that was an entry. You also had this kind of engulfing candle as well. It had both. So you will be looking for short positions on gold if the criteria is met. Next we'll go to GU. So if we look at GU, something interesting here if you switch to the weekly. If we look at this area here, we've got this big wick appearing on this bearish candle. Now we've got this big weekly bullish with a very little wick here. So what we're looking for in the 4-hour, again, is reversals. It may reach this high area here. This is a previous high. So previous highs are also points of interest. As you can see here, we've got a point of interest. So we've got support, we've got resistance, or we've got points of interest. That's where we start paying attention. And then we're looking for the big wick or the big tail. So as you can see here, it's still got quite a bit of way to travel, but it's on our watch list here, as is Euro USD. Again, this has reached a high point here. So it's got a big distance to travel down here, back down to support, or 50% retracement from the fib. So if we put the high point to the low point, there's a good trade to be had in here. The next pair we're looking at is GJ. So as you can see, the Japanese Ministry of Banking stepped in here because this was just rocketing to the moon. They stepped in here and then it came way off. Now it started to recover and come back up. So you can see we've got a point of interest here. At this area, there was a lot of buyers interested because it never came back down and hit support. It just shot off. That's what we identify as a point of interest. But again, if we switch this to the weekly time frame, we'll just zoom in here just now. It's having a slight little retracement. If you look at the weekly on this, there is absolutely no tail on the weekly. So if we look down here in this area, if you identify this wick here, it's absolutely huge. It's a massive rejection. And not only is it a massive rejection, there's absolutely no tail. There's a massive tail here, and then there's no tail on the bullish candle. So this is a momentum candle. So I see next week for GJ, long positions. I definitely see long positions because this is a great setup. This is a big massive rejection the week prior. Last week was just momentum all the way. So you can see it also kind of here, 1, 2, 3 weeks with momentum. We have very little tails on the candles there. So we'll come back to the 4 hour and look for our entry. So we're looking for a retracement. It's maybe already started to happen here. As you can see, we've had a slight retracement. We've had like 3 bearish candles there. The bullish candle failed to rebalance, and then it closed off on Friday with a small bearish candle. So this is something that we'll be looking at as soon as the markets open to see what direction we're going in. But I definitely see some good long positions because there's all this ground to be made up here. If you look at this and think of this, so from this support actually goes way back to here. This was back to September 2023. The market bounced, created this support, and then from January 2024, this just went to the moon. So you're talking 7 months of bullish momentum that was all taken out with this move, and this move happened in a space of a week. This happened in the space of a week. So it tells you, just looking at this itself as well, another way to read the charts, this looks like natural movement, it's going up, tracing back, up, tracing back, making higher highs, higher lows. And then this just doesn't look natural. This tells you this was manipulated. Something stepped in here. The Japanese banks stepped in here to rebalance. Bounced off support. We actually got a really good trade here. But this is going to go up further because it's been bullish for 7 months. And then in the space of from July 10 to August 5, so just less than a month, it's took to wipe out 7 months worth of bullish momentum. So I see this going back up and making a new high. It's a good trade to get into. It's one that you can hold for several weeks. So that's long positions on the GJ. Euro JPY, very much the same story. Fell off here And also the UJ, exact same story. You can see the Great British Pound, the Euro and the USD all versus the Yen, pretty much the same. The charts are pretty much identical. So you ask yourself, what one do you get in on? You monitor the three of them. This is a really good situation because you can monitor the three of them for that entry signal. So you can monitor, this one is traced back here. It's near a point of interest. And the Euro as well bounced off this support. So the three of these I would monitor, and I would aim for an entry signal. One thing to be vigilant of is there's some news events next week. Now the way I never trade news, I use news as a potential exit from a trade, but I will never ever use news as an entry to a trade, because I've just seen too many times the market's getting manipulated when there's news event, bullish news, and then the market goes down, or bearish news and the market goes up and stops you out. It's just happened to me so many times years ago when I tried to learn how to trade news. Just doesn't work out. So if I'm in a position, let's say I enter a position on Tuesday, and there's news on the Friday, if it's high impact news, not all news, but if it's high impact news, I will make sure I'm in or about the charts, monitoring it, to potentially exit the trade if I'm obviously in profit. So just an overview here, Brent crude oil, we don't see any entries on this, but we're paying attention to the price. Obviously geopolitics, this can change rapidly. Gold is an all-time high, so we see this retracing this week ahead. As we do GU, we see that retracing as well. It could potentially reach this high, but if gold reverses first, we see GU dropping. So short positions on gold, short positions on GU, potentially short positions on EU as well, because it follows 90% of the time, it follows GU, or vice versa. GJ, Great British Pound, Japanese Yen. So we see long positions here. I've got all this ground to make up. EJ, we see long positions. UJ, we see long positions. The last one is Great British Pound, Canadian Dollar. This won't be a trade for next week. We're looking to make all-time highs on this. As you can see, we're looking to get up to this range here before we take short positions. We're waiting on a signal, obviously, and we've got our alert here for when it crosses 181771. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, oil and gold are two things you should always be looking at. There's so many forex pairs that are correlated to these two, so you should always know the price, the movement, what the price structure is at the moment. Here we have all the ones marked here with an orange flag. This is ones that we are anticipating we're going to have an entry in the next week. The purple here, purple flag, this is positions that we're monitoring. We don't necessarily think there'll be a position next week, but it may be one that we'll bring into the fray for the week after. I see a position setting up on Great British Pound, Canadian Dollar in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So we will revisit this next week. We will do an analysis on where the markets went and if we had an entry. Until then, please stay safe.